Good evening, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera show. And I'm very happy tonight to have my special friend, Sally Rich from Three Monkeys in Aiken to join me. You know, Sally does all of the beautiful work, she and Kathy over at Three Monkeys, that make this kitchen look spectacular. But we're so glad you're joining us tonight. I've got two great recipes that we're going to do tonight. An Asian pork meatball. I'm going to do it kind of big so you can do it as an entree and also as an appetizer. And then a turkey apple Swedish meatball over mashed potatoes. You don't want to miss that. But in the meantime, we're welcoming in November, and you know, when you get to the fall, you kind of change your wardrobe, you put on different colors. And Sally, shouldn't we be doing the same thing with our kitchens and our homes?
Oh, absolutely we should. We all get so excited when we get a little bit of crisp in the air and everything's so beautiful here in the fall that I think everybody ought to bring a little bit of fall in, and it's really not hard to do. Gold is such a prominent color outside in the fall. If you've got gold pieces, pull them out, put them on your counter, put them on your bookcases, and don't think that gold has to be formal. Here we've got it with a basket and a rustic lantern, and it just gives you that nice golden fall
I'm
look.
just, you know, looking outside at the leaves and thinking that, you know, the caterer in me thinks putting that dish on that basket with, you know, a wonderful dip and all the crackers around it would look so fantastic.
Absolutely beautiful. It would just be perfect.
I was so intrigued tonight when you were putting the leaves in the cabinet. Tell me about that.
Well, these are actual real leaves that are preserved, and we sell them by the bunch at Three Monkeys. They come in 3 colors, and you can put them on a shelf like I did, on a bookcase, surrounding a candle on a table, and it just brings that beauty of fall right into your house, and you've got it outside the window and inside your house too.
God, that is great, like you say, in a den or something. And then, you know, we've used these pumpkins quite a bit in the month of October, and so many people have commented about them, but they're not real.
No, they are absolutely beautiful artificial pumpkins that if you invest in something like this, you pull it out in September, and it can stay in your house all the way until you do your Christmas decorations. They come in different sizes and shapes, and look how real
Oh,
they
I'm
look.
telling you, I mean,
know.
honestly, I had to touch it truly to see. But you know, as we move into getting ready to entertain, and you know, people love to be inside, outside, I just thought it was great to talk about how to maybe make a place setting look a little different this time of year. And you've certainly put together something really spectacular.
Well, layering dishes is something that's very popular, using different patterns. This is actually 3 different dishes from 3 total different companies.
Lines, yeah.
But the showstopper is this pheasant placemat that has every color of the rainbow in it. Brings fall into your house and goes with anything, any kind of dish you want to put on it. It's got metallics in it, so it could be formal with gold or copper or brass, but it also looks really good with pottery, wood, blues, browns, grays, greens, purples, whatever.
Well, and you know, we've used the basket chargers that you sell before, which would look really great with that. Wood. You know, I'm seeing those leaves like you suggested around these candlesticks. So there's so many things, and to, you know, take it and build on it, you know, from a service standpoint, you know, I love for guests to sit down and look at that first and see that splash of beautiful purple. And then as you bring the different courses to the table, it's almost like it kind of comes to life as you go. Folding napkins, of course, is always a lot of fun to do, but with a napkin ring collection, and you've just got whirls of napkin rings, a tip, that is a great bread and butter gift when you're invited to somebody's house is napkin rings. But tell us about these.
And this again brings the gold. These are from Table Art, and they're just actual, they're not, people think that they're leaves dipped in gold. They're not. They're formed to look just like a different herb leaf, and it just brings that fall gold right in.
Looks like that fresh parsley I'm using on the mashed potatoes tonight. And then these candlesticks are really handsome.
Well, the thing I love about these candlesticks is right now with the orange candles, they're a great fall piece. But you put a green or a red candle in there, and that becomes a Christmas candlestick overnight.
Well, we're going to be getting started in just a few minutes on some great food, hopefully, that will complement these beautiful dishes that she's brought tonight. So come back with us after the break. I'm going to get started on those Asian pork meatballs, and Sally, stick around because it's going to start smelling really good in this kitchen. So come back with us after the break. Welcome back, and you know, I can't wait to get started on some recipes that really remind me of fall. And you know, meatballs, you think about it when you think about spaghetti sauce and the traditional meatball, but this time of year you could do so many different things with other meats to make a wonderful dish that can be just the meatball itself or making it smaller for an appetizer. So I've got the pan good and hot over here with a little bit of vegetable oil, and I've thinly sliced a green cabbage, and I'm going to end up with about 3 cups of thinly sliced cabbage. So I'm just going to take this and make it more into bite-sized pieces, and we're going to get that started in this hot oil over here to limp down and saute. So this is going to cook until it's golden brown, kind of a little bit on the limp side. And you know, this is such a great recipe because there's so many components that you can actually see in the meatball when it's displayed. And I love cabbage with pork, so this is another way to incorporate that. All right, this recipe also calls for shiitake mushrooms, and I've gone ahead and taken the stem off, and you're basically doing the exact same thing with that. You're just going to cut some really thin strips of the mushroom, and this is going to also saute in the pan. Shiitake mushrooms have a really nice flavor, and I really like to use those when I'm doing pork instead of just a traditional mushroom. All right, let's see how this is doing. The recipe calls for vegetable oil, but you can certainly use olive oil to do this if you prefer. But now we're getting a nice good tint on the cabbage. While I was at the fresh market getting my ingredients, I love to go in there when they're just preparing some of their ground meats. But if you get to be friendly with the butcher, they're going to do anything for you there. But I got them to grind the pork special for me. And if you're in a hurry, if you'll just say, I'm going to be walking through the store, they're happy to come find you when it's done. In fact, I almost left the store without the meat the other day. I was in such a hurry to leave. Okay, that's just about ready. And what I'm going to do now is take this out of the pan, because we're going to need to get these vegetables cooled off. And I'm going to get started sauteing the mushrooms. There we go. So let that sit, and we're going to put the mushrooms in now and get those going. And again, these will start to get a little bit on the brown side, and you've got enough oil left in the pan that those should just be cooking just right. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit on this, and I'm going to get started with the meat for this. So this is ground pork, and to that I'm going to add two slightly beaten large eggs and 1 egg yolk. And all of these ingredients are so wonderful. I've got 3 scallions that I've chopped up. And if you're not familiar with fresh ginger, you know, it looks kind of crazy in the store, but you just peel it like you would a carrot and then grate it. And I've got about 1 tablespoon of grated fresh ginger. I've got sesame oil, soy sauce, and sugar. All right, let's see how these mushrooms are doing. Those are getting to be just right. And all of this is going to mix up together, and we're going to do about a 2-inch meatball with this. All right, so that's just about ready. I'm going to turn this off, and I want to get this in the refrigerator so these can start cooling down. And you know, when you're making things fresh like this, it's always great to make more than you need, because you never know when you might need to take a meal to a neighbor, or you've had too much to do and you don't have anything really planned for dinner. So I'm going to get this in the refrigerator to start cooling down. And then I'm going to get started mixing up this mixture. And again, you're just going to take your hands and we're just mixing all of this together. And when we come back from the break, those vegetables will be nice and cooled off, and I can add them in as well. And then we'll start making the meatballs and getting those on a cookie sheet. Hey, excuse me for interrupting. Nicole, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. You know, I had such a great time and got to see some people I haven't seen in a while, so thank you very much. You know, it's so important to thank the host or hostess that has invited you to their home for the evening before you leave. You know, sometimes it might be a little awkward if you're trying to sneak out early for one reason or another, but still it's so important to let them know that you had a wonderful time and that you appreciate the invitation. If you're like me and receive sometimes that have several people giving the party, try to speak to at least half of those folks before you leave. The other very important thing is that handwritten thank you note. You know, I want to be invited back next time you have a party. So don't forget, be sure to thank the host and hostess before you leave and make sure that you write that personal thank you note. Welcome back. And while we were on the break, I got everything finished with the Asian pork meatballs. I was able to roll them into like a nice 2-inch round meatball and got them all on the sheet pan. Then I made a wonderful sauce to go on top that used hoisin sauce, chili sauce, a little bit of rice vinegar and sugar. Then I brushed that on the top of each meatball and then sprinkled it with sesame seeds. And now they're in a 400-degree oven for about 18 to 22 minutes. So we'll check on those in just a few minutes. So let's get started on these turkey apple Swedish meatballs. And I've got some butter and oil going in my frying pan. And now I'm going to put in 3 shallots that I've sliced thinly. And y'all have to forgive me, the fall also brings on allergy season. So my voice is a little hoarse tonight. Okay, but we're going to get this going. And while that's cooking down, this recipe calls for pumpernickel bread in the mixture. You know, I know a lot of times when you make meatloaves and meatballs, you use breadcrumbs or crackers or something like that. This really makes this recipe really unique because it uses pumpernickel bread. So I've got about 7 slices in the food processor. And I'm just going to pulse it until it's really fine. Now to that, I'm going to add a cup of milk and some Worcestershire sauce. And basically what we're trying to do here is just get a nice paste. That's what's going to hold the meatballs together. The turkey is really lean, so this will make not only a way for it to be held together, but also very flavorful. Okay, so as you can see, the shallots are starting to turn nice and golden brown. And I have grated a Granny Smith apple. I just peeled it and then grated it. And since we're getting ready to cook it right away, I'm not concerned that the apple has started to turn brown. So now we're going to add this, and don't you love this combination, apples and turkey, onions. We're going to put a little bit of cinnamon. Okay. Let me turn this down just a little bit. So we're going to get that sauteed around. Now I'm going to add to that a clove of garlic, some freshly ground tricolor pepper, and a little bit of cinnamon. Ooh, that smells so good. You know, I love the combinations. The purple and the shallot is really an interesting twist too. All right, so now that's getting just about where I want it to be. And now I'm going to add in the bread that we did. And just use your judgment on how much of this to put in. You might not need quite as much as I prepared. I'm going to do about 3/4 of it. And what we want to do now is just cook this down. And I'm telling you, the aroma on this is fantastic. All right, so I'm going to turn this down on a low heat. And let that liquid get absorbed. And while that's cooking, I'll get started on the gravy that goes with it. And this is 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm going to add to that 2 tablespoons of flour. And then once that's incorporated, I'll add in the chicken stock. So we want this just to work long enough for it to dissolve that butter. And then we're going to gradually add in the broth. All right. So I'm going to keep going on this gravy. And when we come back from the break, I'll be putting these meatballs together and we'll get started on some plate presentation with some of Sally's beautiful china. Something smells pretty good in here. Turkey apple Swedish meatballs. Now I can't think of a single member of my family that wouldn't eat this, and I think you'll say the same thing too. So while we were gone during the break, and again, forgive me for my hoarse voice tonight, but while we were gone during the break, I was able to get the cooled mixture, the bread mixture that had the apples and all of the shallots and all the good stuff, cinnamon. It cooled down. I was able to add the egg to the turkey, got that mixed up and really, really well. And then I made about 1-inch meatballs out of that, put it into a 425-degree oven, and it's cooked for about 25 minutes. So now I'm going to transfer these meatballs to a pan, and I also got the gravy made during the break. It was a combination. I got started with flour and chicken broth, and I want to remind you that when you do buy the chicken broth at the fresh market and you open it, just be sure to get out that highlighter and highlight the date that you opened it so that you don't have expired chicken broth in your refrigerator when you get ready to use it the next time. All right, so we're going to put the meatballs there. Now I'm going to add this beautiful gravy to the top of this. And that's going to be served over a bed of my homemade mashed potatoes in just a minute. All right, so let's get started plating. You know, Sally came by and helped us get the kitchen just looking fantastic. And she has these gorgeous dishes that she brought tonight. So I was trying to decide which thing I would do on which plate. So what I've come up with, that I'm going to do the Swedish meatballs on the mashed potatoes on this gorgeous plate. So we'll put a heaping helping of the mashed potatoes. And now I'm going to spoon over the Swedish meatballs with the gravy. And if you ever want to make your gravy a little darker, you could add some kitchen bouquet to that. Then I cut up some fresh parsley. That's going to go on top. That just looks fantastic. And now for the Asian pork meatballs. We've got 2 pieces of Boston lettuce. And let me grab these meatballs out. These turned out really great too. We're going to just put a meatball on each lettuce leaf. And then I've got a beautiful gravy over here to go on top. Just dress that up. If I don't choke to death first. All right, and then finally, some green beans, just straight down the middle. And I just really cook these in olive oil with a little bit of salt and pepper. So 2 great fall dinners, beautiful presentations. On either one of these, you can do it smaller for appetizer portions. But I just want to remind you that this time of the year, try some new things. Think of the things that you love the most and incorporate those ingredients into some of the things that you're doing. I also want to remind you that I'm doing I'm crying, talking about how good all this is. I want to remind you that I'm doing my cooking classes with children on Saturdays. If you want more information, go to VeryVera.com. The recipes for tonight are on the NBC website at NBC26.tv. I hope you don't come down with this cold, but in the meantime, no matter what you do, do it in good taste. Please try these recipes, and don't forget to go over to Three Monkeys and look for some of the beautiful things that Sally put together tonight. I hope you'll join me next week. I promise you I'll feel a little bit better. Have a good night.